Rolling along here on HQ Spotlight, the Cowboys were on the outside looking in this past season with the Eagles winning the NFC East. Perhaps the draft could help them change that this year. So let's take a look at the draft order in the NFC East. The Eagles are picking 23rd overall, the Cowboys with the 12th and 20th picks in the first round, the Commanders with the 7th, and the New York Giants selecting 5th. We are going deeper into the needs in the NFC East with those teams, with Mike Renner breaking down the draft and JP Acosta with the needs for free agency. We'll start with you, Mike. What position do the Eagles address first in the draft?
I think cornerback's their biggest need in the draft. Now, I don't think they addressed it in the first round because the last 2 years they've used 3 top 2-round picks on their secondary. And just knowing Howie Roseman and how he goes about building a team, I expect that first rounder to go back to the trenches, which is usually his MO, especially given the age of this offensive line. But I think in the second round, Julian Neal from Arkansas makes a ton of sense for their needs, for their scheme with Vic Fangio back. He's 6'2", 208, much more of a zone corner, a fantastic tackler, very physical cornerback, would fit in with guys like Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell in that secondary. So whether it's pick 54, pick 68, somewhere on day 2, I think the Eagles address that second cornerback position.
And it's incredible podcast synergy going on right now because free agency, I do think that they should address cornerback. And I think there are a lot of good options for them this offseason at the cornerback spot. Like Mike said, they need to find a second corner opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. They would love to not have to play Cooper DeJean on that area. In that area, I would love Josh Jobe, corner from the Seahawks, would be a really nice fit for what they do defensively when it comes to playing in cover 2, getting hands on opponents, especially at the line of scrimmage. And I think he plays much bigger than his size. And I think it's going to really help the Eagles secondary sort of be able to move Cooper DeJean back to nickel full time, and they can readdress everything else from there.
We'll have to see how the A.J. Brown saga plays out, too, when it comes to receiver for those Eagles. Hey, JP, I feel like when it comes to the Cowboys, defense could be a sore spot after the trade with Michael Parsons. I know he got injured during the season, but could they address that position, though, in free agency?
I do think they can. I think they will address edge rusher in free agency. I do think there are a couple of nice options for them, especially when we get to pass rush. But the thing they need the most is just somebody who blends the pass rush capability with the ability to stop the run. Because they have guys like Jadeveon Clowney who are great at stopping the run, can't really rush the passer, and then have guys like Sam Williams and Donovan Ezeraku, second round draft pick last year, who are better pass rushers and don't really blend that run stopping. I think Odafe Owe, former Raven and Charger, this season I think will be a really cool splurge addition for this Cowboys defense if they want to try and turn up their pass rush and still have some run capability. I think keeping Clowney around will be really smart because he's just an effective edge rusher, but I do think they should add and they should double dip, especially given the lack of depth that they have at that edge rusher spot.
Yes, 100%, JP. Even if they sign a guy in free agency, you need to draft one as well, specifically when you have 2 first-round picks. That's just the size of the hole that Micah Parsons' absence left last year. The guy I would highlight for them specifically is Akeem Mesidor from Miami. JP highlighted that they need a guy who is a two-way player. If you watch Mesidor's tape this past year, he was awesome, not only against the run, but rushing the passer as well. And there's a good chance he's still on the board at pick 20, despite having what I would say is top 3 defensive end tape this year. It's because he's 25 years old. He's one of the oldest prospects in this year's draft. His injury history is lengthy, so he may fall a little bit, but that could behoove the Cowboys, who are looking for an impact player right now, a quick turnaround for this team. He's a guy that if you watch his tape, you know day 1 he'll make an impact on an NFL field.
Well, they got enough rivals in this division, but when you look at the Commanders, they might also look to try to bolster that defense, too, with that 7th overall pick. Mike, can they do that through the draft?
I think so, and I think they're hoping that someone like David Bailey from Texas Tech falls to them on the edge, because if you watch this team last year, it didn't look like a Dan Quinn defense. Usually he likes to have a lot of speed in the front 7, and this was a uniquely slow and old front 7. So getting a guy like Bailey, who is probably the most tuned up, twitched up edge rusher in this draft class, who just on his first step alone and his ability to, slant, stunt inside, things of that nature can make an impact without having to be a refined pass rusher in Dan Quinn's defense, is I think something you're looking for. 81 pressures, 14.5 sacks. He has that juice that this team is missing.
And I sort of cheated with this one for free agency. I could have gone with defensive line, but I just said front seven. They need to spend as much money in that defensive front as possible, especially with Bobby Wagner entering free agency, Von Miller entering free agency. Frankie Lulu's not going to get any younger. A position and a player that I really think they should try and go get is Quay Walker from the Green Bay Packers. With Durante Jones coming over from Minnesota and sort of incorporating the Brian Flores defense, what they asked for from their linebackers is so profound when it comes to playing on the line of scrimmage and having the size to set the edge, but also being able to blitz and be able to carry guys vertical in that defense. And I think Quay Walker has the athletic capability. His play really grew as he stayed in Green Bay, so I'm really excited to see what his market will look like. But imagining Quay Walker and David Bailey in a retuned Commanders defense would give me a lot of excitement if I was a Commanders fan.
I think you're safe saying to retool that whole front seven. And we're going to get to see maybe how that ends up stacking up against the Giants. And when you look at their O-line, because tackle Andrew Thomas said this week he felt like the group played well, but that you can never be complacent. Mike, do you see them addressing the line in the draft?
I think so. And usually if you need an offensive tackle, you better draft it early. So that pick number 5 overall, I think Spencer Fano from Utah could be what they need on the right side there. Jermaine Illuminor hitting free agency at right tackle. And ideally you'd like to upgrade even if you keep him on the roster. And to me, Fano is kind of like the inverse of Evan Neal when they drafted him a few years ago, and that Evan Neal had this sky-high ceiling, but a very low floor, as we found out. I think Fano doesn't have the highest ceiling, but I think his floor is exceptionally high. You watch his ability to mirror, his ability to move in space. It's exactly what the high-end pass-protecting tackles at the NFL look like. He allowed only 5 pressures all season long and didn't allow a single pressure in his final 5 games. It would be a very safe pick for the New York Giants, something that they desperately need.
I'm in lockstep with Mike here when it comes to addressing the offensive line. With Jackson Dart entering his 2nd season as a quarterback, you have to protect your prized possession. He cannot continue to miss games. And while part of that was Jackson Dart bringing a lot of hits onto himself, you have to be able to grind some people down in the run game. You got to be able to protect your quarterback. I think a guy like Braden Smith from the Colts would be a really interesting free agent addition. I wonder how much he's going to command on the market, because if you try and address offensive tackle this offseason in free agency, you're walking a thin tightrope, because this class or this group of offensive tackles in free agency isn't very deep. It's a reflection of, if you have good tackles, you pay them a lot of money and you keep them around. So the Giants are going to be walking a thin tightrope when it comes to addressing their offensive line through free agency, but I think Braden Smith will make a lot of sense here for New York.
And allow me to be cliche here, but the game's won in the trenches. We all know that, right? So we'll see how it all plays out this offseason and going into the draft. Mike and JP, thank you guys so much. All right, looking at the odds to win the NFC, and the Eagles coming out as the front runner over the boys. I wonder how that makes some folks feel.